I would always tell them, you're not alone. We all have feelings of emptiness and loneliness. Even now, as an adult, I do. I get it. So I would say, you're not alone. You may feel alone.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance of Martin County. Beyond just providing insurance, they are dedicated to protecting our local families from difficult financial situations when life happens. We want to thank them for everything they do for our community and for supporting our mission to be a resource for youth workers and the families they serve. To learn more, please visit the team at your local Martin County office or call 606-298-7721.
Welcome to Me and Poverty, a podcast about breaking barriers, building bridges, and changing lives, one story at a time. So today is a special episode. You all are getting kind of the double dose, if you will. This is our first episode where I have two guests joining us today. I call them our dynamic duo. They've been wonderful partners for me in my mission of serving our at-risk youth in Appalachia. We've actually did a tour together where we went into different schools throughout Eastern Kentucky, and we've been investing and pouring into our students and reminding them of the impact of having a trusted adult in their life. Today's guests are part of a wonderful initiative called Green Dot. And Green Dot is actually underneath the umbrella of Mountain Comprehensive Care Center. And they are all throughout Eastern Kentucky. Green Dot is actually underneath Mountain Comp's healing program. So without further ado, welcome to the show, my dear friends, Kim and Leslie.
Hey, I'm honored to be here. We've made friends with Joseph Little. Joseph Little is an interesting character. I realized that because of the fact that we met last April and he was getting his work off and we were getting a big event going, so he helped us out a lot with talking to our youth as a presenter. As the Green Dot High School and Community Green Dot leader in our Region 11, we are known as the Green Dot Ladies, and my partner here is Leslie Fannin Drossett, and I'm so proud of our work in Region 11. We have done so much in the area in the past, I'm going to say 6 years now. We have taken off with Green Dot slowly. I would like to say that Martin County High School was actually our first county that we stepped in with Green Dot, and then Floyd County liked what they had heard that we were doing in Martin County, that they have all got on board with the Green Dot program that has taken 2 years. So now we're in the Pike County area, and then we're in 2 high schools. But when I say Green Dot community also, Prestonsburg is a community Green Dot city, and so we work closely with businesses and agencies. Green Dot is now reaching out to many more high schools in other counties, so next year, our hopes and plans will be Johnson County and Magoffin County, because they signed off on an intent to bring us into the county for their high school students. So we are growing.
That is phenomenal to hear. And the more schools that we can get you all in, the better. And I'm so honored to have gotten to meet you. Now it seems like a lifetime ago. We've worked together so much that it's been truly a joy to get to serve our youth in Appalachia with you guys. And you've been wonderful partners. I want to thank you for that. Thank you for supporting the book and the podcast. And it's a joy to have you here today. Ladies, let me ask you, what is your all's relationship with poverty?
Well, as Kim said, we're very fortunate in the positions that we have with the healing program through Mountain Comprehensive Care Center. We believe in the Green Dot program, and we believe it's effective for helping teens make positive choices. For me personally, I've always cared about people and wanted to help people. I never knew poverty like I've seen poverty impact society today. I have 3 brothers. We grew up in a house with 2 bedrooms, and we shared 1 bathroom. Father worked for the gas company. My mom was a nurse. My grandparents lived close by, my aunt, my uncle. So we had a great support system. Now, I will say I always had everything I needed. I didn't always get what I wanted. As time went on, we were raised to help other people and to serve other people in our lives. And we felt like our greatest accomplishment would be to become good citizens and to empower others to do the same. So, for me, my background is school counseling, and I was most of my career in school counseling. I retired from Floyd County Schools after 30 years. And the reason I came back to this program and wanted to really participate was because I saw the barriers that were facing so many students. Students of poverty, whether it be transportation, physical needs, mental health needs, basic needs, grandparents raising children, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends raising children. And I was fortunate enough for about a year and a half, I was an SED case manager before I took this position with Mountain Comp. And I went to homes and I saw the different levels of poverty. These kids don't come in with an even playing field. If we can somehow even that playing field and encourage them to make better choices, to reach out to a trusted adult or someone when they need a friend to support them. If they can work one day, be a productive citizen. These are the things we talk about, along with preventing sexual assault, which is healthy and unhealthy relationships, dating violence. You know, if we could prevent dating violence in our high schools, hopefully there wouldn't be domestic violence. If we could do bully prevention in our high schools and they really knew what it meant, not only our students but our community members and our staff members, then ultimately in those three categories we would see a lower crime rate. We would see people caring for people in the common good. Those are our goals. I'll just share one story. As a case manager, it really opened my eyes when I had a lady who was in a wheelchair and she reached out for her young daughter who was in kindergarten. And she had an older son who was in virtual school. And she needed help with not Christmas gifts, food. They did not have a meal. And so I'm thinking, okay, let's get turkey and dressing and ham and, you know, a big Christmas dinner and decorate the tree and bring presents. No, honey, if you could bring us some hamburger helper, if you could bring us a liter of pop, some toilet paper, my children a coat, that's really all we want or need. I don't believe people truly understand what it's like for some of these families. They're everywhere in eastern Kentucky, and they're prideful. Just because they're living in poverty does not mean that they're not prideful. But they will ask if it means helping their children or their grandchildren or nieces or nephews or whomever they're supporting. But they need help in so many ways. And if Kim and I, through Green Dot, can impact them in one tiny way to make their life even a short moment better, or have a guest speaker come in, or maybe long term, we don't give up. We're big dreamers, we're also realists, and we're always optimists and positive.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Me and Poverty. I just wanted to take a quick second and tell you about our Season 2 sponsor, Appalachia Reach Out, or ARO for short. Founded in 1972, ARO is a ministry in eastern Kentucky devoting their time and effort to being Christ's love in action. Based in Martin County, but also serving Perry County, Kentucky, and Scioto County, Ohio, ARO supports families by meeting basic needs through their food pantry, their thrift store, while also partnering in addiction recovery, education, and community development through their work and witness teams. Fun fact, we've even had Appalachia Reach Out's Executive Director, Dwayne Mills, on this podcast before. So please go check out that episode last season. I'm going to have a link to ARO's website in the description of this video. Guys, I'm sure they would love your support, whether that be financially or volunteering your time. With that being said, let's get back into the episode. It's always a joy when I get to spend time with you ladies and talk about being uniquely qualified, I guess is the word I'm still thinking of, qualified. Just your all's experience, right? And being where you're from, and Floyd County's not too different than Martin County, you know. Economically, it's a little better off, but You all are impacting families all throughout Eastern Kentucky, not just Floyd and Martin, but God's given you all specific experiences, it sounds like, in your past that have uniquely qualified you to better support our families here in Eastern Kentucky. And I appreciate folks that maybe you don't have the personal poverty, personal story like I do. That's totally okay, but you all have the hearts to serve our people. And it's not always the case. And it's so cool to get to have gotten to know you guys over this year. And I can't wait to see what work we get to do together in the future to impact our kids here in Eastern Kentucky.
I think of myself when I go back into the years of growing up in Eastern Kentucky. I actually was raised my first 7 years in Columbus, Ohio. My father was a superintendent for a carpentry construction company, making lots of money, and we didn't know what it was like to do without. So, being my father and our family connection, he wanted to come back to Eastern Kentucky when I was 7. And when we came back, it wasn't a shock as much as it was the family and the love and the church. And we didn't mind leaving home, the city life. We came in and we thought that we hit the jackpot when we had aunts and uncles and cousins and permanent place of fun and growing up, I felt like I was rich. So when I looked at the poverty that everyone else was going through, I really felt like I love this life. This is great. I don't have to have the restaurants, the fancy clothes. I needed family, and family at a young age was everything to me. So going to my grandmother's, going to my cousins for sleepovers, and joining the church weekly was everything I needed. So when I walked into my friend's house that lived up on the hill, they had dirt floors, and I was like, and when they said, let's go kill a hog, I got to help with that. So,
That's too cool.
so
Yeah.
I felt privileged to leave Columbus to move to Little Wayland, Kentucky, that's in
Sure.
Floyd, and have all these experiences of walking the hills, knowing what privacy and property, and having neighbors when you had a crisis, and having a built-in family with neighbors in the church. So, Green Dot now means so much more when I say I can relate to all the teens. I can relate to all levels of social economics because I know what it's like to have and I know what it's like not to have, and it's okay because family and neighbors and good people is what we need in Region 11. So when I was a school teacher, I think that's why it started when I was in Sunday school teaching my little kids. I felt like this is my calling. So then I became a school teacher and I taught K through college level classes. And then I decided, family's so important that I decided to retire a little early and raise my 2 daughters. And then I said, okay, they're old enough now, they're teenagers, they're having a lot of issues, and I need a job that can address a lot of the teen issues they're having in our schools. So I prayed about it, and I'll be honest, in 2 weeks I had a phone call from a really dear friend of mine that said, hey Kim, we have a job. And I think you're going to love this job because you are great about, and I'm not boasting that, but I really like connecting with all ages of students. So I was like, okay, tell me more.
And I know that to be true. Yeah.
Yes, and all ages of population in Floyd County, Martin County, Pike County, Johnson County, and Magoffin County is like the next. So I'm anxiously awaiting to see more teens, more community people, and parents as well as our elders, because you know what? It's all about community. Community at the school level to community in our towns and our neighborhoods. So if we can make a difference by using the Green Dot concept of intervening, stepping up, being that friend, being that resource for any need that is directly going to help someone, I'm here and I'm vested.
When we go in and we present, we do school-wide assemblies to start off, getting to know, and I've been fortunate enough this year to model and shadow Kim in Martin and Pike County, or excuse me, Floyd County high schools. And I've really, really enjoyed it. But we also tell the kids, you know, we are faith-based and we will reference God when we speak. And we don't apologize for it because that is our background and that is our spirit and that drives us. And I'm so thankful in Eastern Kentucky that we've not had one school, not one child, not one administrator, parent, or guardian, knock on wood, complain about that because, you know, that is our personal belief. We also tell the students, you know, we believe in Green Dot. We had to train. We had to become certified. So the principles that are the foundation of Green Dot, we apply them in our own lives as adults. And we say you're never too old to learn. And that one day, and I always say this, you may be pushing my wheelchair, you may be changing my tire on the side of the road, you may be helping me in some way that I could never imagine, that you could never imagine. But there'll be a time when you will think, oh, that's what those Green Dot ladies were talking about.
Yeah, because the other day I noticed that when Leslie shared that story just now, there was a couple of guys and girls, teenage teens, and they looked up and said, oh, that's right, we're growing up. We may end up pushing your wheelchair.
Yep.
Because, one of them was wanting to be a nurse. It's like a light bulb, and it's like, okay, when we leave here, we move on to the community. And we're going to be hopefully mimicking a little bit about what you're all sharing with us because it's a lifelong skill that we have taught them and ingrained in them.
You know, we believe in academics. You know, we're from a public school education systems, and we love our teachers. We love our custodians, our janitors, our lunch ladies, our upfront office secretaries. I mean, we work with everybody when we come into a school, the coaches. We're so thankful that they have welcomed us like they have welcomed us. It's just like eventually we feel part of the family in those areas. These kids drive us. You know, when we go in, they tell us eventually the needs, the wants, the scenarios, the situations. And we meet them where they're at. And we encourage them. We don't tell them or advise them, but we encourage them to just stop and think in a tricky moment or a situation that you just feel in your gut may not be right. And we know that there are other programs that come in and tell you what's what, but we provide the how to safely intervene on behalf of yourself or someone else, whether it be at home, in the school, or in the community. And that's the sustainability of Green Dot, especially administrators, superintendents, principals. Well, how is this evidence-based, and how is this sustainable over time? Because we are operating on grant, because the concepts that we embed and work with students on, and staff members, community members, they build and they implement, and they are self-sustaining over time once they start utilizing them in their lives.
Yeah, and you are bringing in a lot of partners too, right? And when you're putting on these events like you did at the Mountain Arts Center, you had a lot of wonderful partners that they play different. They're different pieces of the puzzle. They play different roles in intervention and prevention and these key core concepts. And I know, because I've been in there with you all get those real world scenarios of these kids coming up to you that, respectfully, not everybody's going to get to see and experience. So you all are literally front line in the hallway. I remember seeing a few of our kiddos that we ran into that literally walked up to us and asked for advice and feedback or etc. And so a couple other things based on what you all have said that are sticking with me. One, you know, the role that faith plays and being unapologetic about that. In our experiences, it's not about shoving our faith down someone's throat, right? Like, it's just saying, hey, this is what happened for me. And I think people find a level of legitimacy with that, and they're like, maybe curiosity comes with it. And I think if you take the right approach about it, you can bring faith into the school systems, right, in an appropriate way. And I've gotten to see a lot of that with you all and others. And these schools, I think they're wanting to believe in something. These students, even the teachers, and faculty, staff, that sort of thing. So I admire that about you guys. And I had another point I wanted to bring up, and it completely left me. That's why I need to be writing my stuff down. But it'll probably come back to me later. That's
Let
okay.
me iterate on.
Yep, go right ahead.
We're known by the titles Green Dot Ladies. And before, when I did the training, there was no mention of a Green Dot Lady. It was, Miss or Mr. or by
Sure.
name. And I wanted to make it special because I knew that there'd be someone else that's going to be taking my spot one day. And it could be a Green Dot man, could be a Green
Yep.
Dot woman. It could be, so I want these kids to know green is all about prevention. And I say, let's spread the green. And they go, spread the green. That means go. Okay, no. Let's spread the 3 green dots. And then they go, green dots. What's green dots? It's like you're one little tiny dot. And I know last year my goal was for students to memorize the motto. No one has to do everything, but everyone has to do something. And they're going, well, what is that something? Well, it's when we get ourselves in a pickle, when we get ourselves in a crisis, or we're just not sure about it, or we check in with our friends in our small groups. And that's where it starts, is in our small groups of friendships, our small groups of friends at school, or even in the community, the people we work with. And we think about the 3 green dots, which is so vital when it comes to intervention. We have 3, and I always stress those when we share a scenario. It could be a scenario of 2 students that are friends, but they're in an unhealthy, one of them is in an unhealthy relationship. And how does that friend, interrupt or intervene? Or how do they stand up and show that you're in an unhealthy relationship without losing a friend? So those 3 green dots is like direct. Direct, you get directly involved. You say something on your own because you just can. You have that ability. Or maybe you don't have that ability of being able to be direct with your friend, and you go to delegate. Let's take this to the counselor. Let's take this to someone else that you trust, and they have an unbiased opinion, and they can give you some advice without knowing it's you. Or we go through a distraction of, hey, I need you for a moment, because you see this unhealthy relationship at the table or in the gym
Yep.
or in the classroom, and you say, I need to talk to you. It's really important. Come over here. And then you take them from that unhealthy moment and you take them
Sure.
to the bathroom and have that one-on-one conversation.
It's crucial.
It's crucial at that moment, and it usually doesn't take 2 or 3 minutes. And then when you have that moment of time, you have to say what you really mean and make it heartfelt. And then if they don't like it, then they may walk off, and then they may come back at you the next day and say, hey, thank you. So 3 green dots.
Joseph, I wanted to add that along with being the trusted someone, the trusted adult, we work with children, which we call teenagers children, on finding people that are worthy of good advice for them. You may tell everybody everything, but maybe they're not always going to be able to understand it, process it, or help guide you in the right way. So that's one aspect of our focus that we are doing this year, along with stand up for something right, even if you stand alone, and which is very difficult in terms of being a leader. And some of our scenarios were really targeting substance prevention, such as opioids, alcohol, any kind of misuse of drugs. So that also umbrellas into our program, because we come up with, like I said, the scenarios the students give us, whether it be a prom night, a graduation night, after a ball game, behind the bleachers, in their homes. They don't name names, but they'll provide scenarios. And so we're like coaches. We take these scenarios and we practice and we practice and we practice 3 Ds. Okay, you can do any D. Are you going to delegate, distract, or are you going to direct? So what are we going to do? And sometimes the distracts parts are really fun, what they come up with, and we try to make it fun. But there are also times when we get very serious. And I will say this, our teenagers, the majority that we've worked with, are direct. They want to say, no, stop, that's not right. And then we go into situations where it might not be safe for you to do that. But I did want to touch on that the summit this year, we are going to focus on substance use prevention and opioid prevention.
Yeah. Yeah, super excited to attend that again. And I respect so much what you guys are doing in our schools. And let's move on to, I've got a few different questions. But ladies, when you all go into our school systems, what's your main goal? Like, if you had a teacher, principal, superintendent, or a student in front of you and you want them to know the main goal of the Green Dot ladies, what would you all say that is?
Well, in 30 seconds or less, I'll say it like this. Green Dot empowers students, even teachers, even our community people, that Green Dot is a program that empowers you of doing the right thing. So in the end of it, we can live safely, healthier, and then we become happier citizens of school or community.
I like that. Yeah, I think that sums it up really well. What would you all say is probably the funniest or maybe silliest, goofiest moment that you've had? And we don't need names here, okay? Like, can you all share with our audience? Because you deal with our teens. I mean, respectfully, all of our teens are a little goofy, right? They're just in that phase of life. So, do you all have a funny story from your experiences?
We have a lot of funny stories, whether it be between she and I getting ready.
Sure.
When we go out to high school, we pack up everything from our swag to our items that we give away to candy to brochures. So we're constantly packing and pulling and tugging and laying out. And sometimes she'll roll in her vehicle and I'll roll in my Jeep. And, oh, did you get this? Did you get that? So we're always managing and organizing and dropping off and reconvening. But at the summit, we decided in about 3.5 weeks that our children in Floyd County and Martin County, the high school students, that they hadn't had any positive messaging since COVID on taking pride in themselves, making positive choices, especially during those times of potential incidents, right before prom season, right before graduation season, right into the summer when the kids are out of school. So we said, okay, we want to bring all these high school students together. We want to run it like a professional development for students. I mean, I don't know about you, Joseph, but we've been to a lot of trainings. I'm ready to see some kids get some training. So we said we were going to contact every vendor, every sponsor, every person we know, and we would personally go see them. And we did.
We did.
And we did. And 3.5 weeks.
Our checklist was so long. Oh, my Lord. It was like doing a checklist.
Well, I was honored to receive a message from you guys. So
Okay, so everything went pretty smoothly. Keep in mind, we had how are you going to get in the building? How are you going to set up the food? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? And so we had wonderful partners from the Floyd County Board of Education to the Martin County Board of Education, all those principals. But I'll tell you, there were a few doubters, and honestly, I had to take deep breaths. I was not a doubter, but I was getting a little nervous. There were about 6 kids from Prestonsburg High School that were nominated to come and just help carry things, set things up from their Jobs for American graduate program, JAGS.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And let me tell you, they came at 7 a.m. and they stayed all day and into the evening. And if it hadn't been for them, I don't know how we would have carried the things, managed the things, pulled the things off. But the funny part of it all was we got there and we got it all set up and we had like 2 seconds to just breathe, literally. And, we had a hospitality room. We wanted all the teachers and whoever came to be treated well, have their own little private time. So everything was going well. And the students started coming in. And they're coming in the front and they're coming in the sides. And they want to know the plan for coming into the building, the plan for exiting the building. And, of course, the Shriners were set up on this side to grill our hot dogs. And I knew I could not be in the mic on that stage. One of us would have to be out in the hallway managing, and the other one would have to be on the stage coordinating, because it was evolving minute by minute, down to the agenda. So the funniest part for me was, it was like scrambled eggs. It worked. I would go in and I would whisper something to Kim, then I'd run back out and I'm like, okay, you guys are in the coffee line, we gotta get back in here. I felt like the elementary teacher, at heart I am.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, let's go. But it was just such a blessing. And I pray that we can do something as positive again this year. And you know what? We know.
I have no doubt.
We're real. We know there could be issues. We know there could be problems. But to say that you brought over 1,500 high school students together, juniors and seniors, and some of the sophomores that were JAGs, and the different bands, and the different, the talent was the students primarily, and
Oh, yeah.
stories of
Yeah.
resilience from our community members and business leaders or our companies. I think about it now because Kim just looked up there like Vanna White. I mean, she looked like she was just, whoo. And I would be like, I'd run. And I'd say, and I'd be telling her, and she'd go, really? Really? I'm like, yeah. So she's
With a smile on my
like,
face.
get out there and
That's
tell
right.
Kim.
I had a checklist that Leslie had created as we were working on this for 3 weeks when we had no money.
I love
And
it.
when I say that, we
No
had
money.
no money. And we
Yeah.
had this big, I just said, Leslie, I really want to do something big. And she said, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, really? You're going to listen? She did. And she goes, we can do that. And I went, okay. So we started praying. And every morning we'd come in, I'd say, God is good. God is good. This is what happened last night. And then she'd say, okay, what else are we going to do? Then the program started growing. And it was growing from the bottom to the top. And then in between, we were squeezing in people. And at one time, she said, okay, Kim, now we've got more people than we have time. So I said, okay, well, you know there'll be a few that just won't make it because there'll be something that happens. That's okay. So let's look at maybe giving everybody 10 minutes. And she goes, 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. And then I said, and then we'll give everyone that's going to be our talent in between the speakers, let's give them 3 to 5 minutes to sing a song or play a piece of music or use a persuasive essay and read it to the crowd. And then we have to make sure we have at least 3 kids from every school. And some of the kids were like, but can I? And we'd say, yeah, we're going to let you sing too. But we didn't know how we were going to squeeze them in. We just knew that every person that wanted to be on stage with us or they wanted to be a part of the big Green Dot Summit, we just said, it's good. We're going to make it happen. And we did. And even though there were a few changes, mishaps at the morning hour, we squeezed them in the afternoon because we just wanted to make sure that everyone had a time to shine. And when I say that, it gives me chills because in the end of it all, we closed it with a pastor and a young boy, Jared Haney. And the kids listened so closely. And this is at the end of the day at 2 o'clock when everyone's wanting to be talkative. And the whole audience was quiet, listening to the ending as well as they did at the beginning of our morning at 9 o'clock when we just got it all started. And then in the end, I had a young man that had been in a terrible ATV incident, and he could barely talk, but he wanted to tell his story. And he just kept pointing, and I was looking at the audience, and he just kept pointing at Jared. And I walked off the stage when they were doing the talking because it was so important to hear this young teen tell his story to me. And I took him afterwards to Jared, and he used his story. And he's still telling the young man's story that even, he had the odds against him. He's back in high school. And now I see him at Floyd Central, and he comes and talks to me, so we're friends. And he knows that I'm a trusted adult. There's so many trusted people out there, and we made so many connections with the people that we invited to set up a table event, to be a speaker, and to be part of our talent.
And I wanted to add that not only, when we were planning this, number one, we wanted the students to be empowered, pathways and knowledge and stories of resilience, because where you may be now will not be where you're in the future. And we wanted people that spoke to be authentic and honest. You may see me as a business person now or owning my own company, but it wasn't always like that. And to see that they were right here from Floyd County and from the different areas of the high schools that were graduates, it was very touching. And I do feel like that the kids, when I ask them, who do you remember the summit when I go back into the high schools? And they do. Now, whenever you do something big and you feel like you did it well, there's always room for improvement. But without the sponsors and a few that really stepped up, and we were literally on a shoestring budget. Talk about poverty. But we wanted every single student to have this experience. Every single student to get certain items like a journal, a pen, a bag. We had certain swag items that we wanted them to receive. And of course, we wanted them to have food. And Kim does these big green dot cookies.
This is what happened. We had the bracelets, we had the flashlights, like when they seen some talent on stage, they could flash it like they were using the old-timey lighters that we used to take to concerts. Well, they had their flashlights, and it all had green dot and had text numbers of, resources even built into that swag. And then the green dot cookies. I noticed when I had a break from being on stage for about 3.5 hours, I walked in to get me a bottle of water and to get a little snack because, see, we don't eat a lot when we're working. So I looked up, and theirs were those 300 plus cookies that were decorated specifically for my teens to get a little green dot taste of goodness baked locally. I looked up and I said, no one is serving the green dot cookies. So I made one announcement. Everyone in here in the hallways, come and get your green dot cookie. And they lined up until they were all gone within 20 minutes. Because that's all the time I had for a break. Because we had part 2 coming on at the top of the hour and talent waiting. So.
Yeah, we wanted each one of them to have popcorn because we wanted to have a theater experience,
That's right.
And we wanted each one of them to go home well fed. We didn't want any kid not to have enough to eat that day. That was a big
I think
part.
I ate 2 hot dogs myself, so I know I went home happy.
And some of the other resource center directors that helped us on that.
Yes.
I remember when you just said talk about poverty. You're talking about your shoestring budget, if you will, for that event. Yeah, it came back to me what I wanted to say earlier. We were talking about, your journey, Kim, coming from Columbus, and our families here in Appalachia. There's a richness that we do have here. It's not financial, but it's the culture, right? It's the family. It's the neighbor that's family, even though they're not blood and all of that. And for people that aren't from Appalachia, that's just, they don't understand it. They don't experience it. And I even go back to the classic example of you're driving, you throw your hand up. When I travel, you don't get that back, right? Like there's a richness that you experience. And I think it's far more important than financial, right? And obviously I talk about the different types of poverty in my book, but you and I both know, ladies, that there are a lot of students in our schools that they want to make impact. They want to change their schools for the better. They're just maybe not exactly sure how. So when you all are in schools, how does Green Dot specifically help those future leaders make an impact? How do you all encourage them to do so?
I'm going to say last week, for example, we went into a school to do a Green Dot bystander leadership training. And mind you that these kids are selected because they're nominated by their friends or teacher or administrator that feels like these kids are leaders in their small groups, and they are also leaders in the classroom.
They're also from a variety of backgrounds. They're not necessarily all athletes, all academic team members. They're artists, they're musicians. They're a very diverse group of populations because within each population there are leaders. So we try to bring that diversity together to promote the common good and school culture of the high school that we're in.
And they realize that after we're done giving our little spiel at the beginning that all have unique abilities and that all students have talents. And sometimes more are seen or heard about, but this is your day of opportunity. And when they get in their groups, sometimes we number them off and mix them up, or we just have games and we put so many boys and girls, and then they end up sharing the activities with one another through a competition, such as the qualities of a leader, and they only have 3 minutes and they have to work together. It's, they have to figure out, and then whoever ends up with the richest list of words and to describe a leader, then they get to hear from everyone in that training. They're listening and they're saying, wow, I didn't know that about this person, or I really didn't know that person spoke so well in groups. Or then we're putting other students, and that means all students, for that moment of time, they have the floor. Everyone has to listen. And then by the end of the day, we had a community project that from those earlier activities build upon it, so that when we say at the end of today in the afternoon, we're going to have a community project, and who would you like to address that has a need or that we can show appreciation for, and then we make that list, and then we have a voting on who are we going to make some Christmas cards for example, or are we going to make a craft and send that to the nursing home, or who is it that you see that would benefit from this Christmas project?
This group said, well, we really think our SROs really help us and support us. And there was another group there that said, well, we really think our 911 dispatchers, they really help and support us. And it just happened so that the SRO was walking down the hallway, and we invited this person in to speak to the students.
And for those that don't know, what's the SRO?
School resource officers in our high schools. They're trusted adults. Many students, when we're in our trainings, mention them as their trusted adult that they would go to if they felt unsafe, or
Sure.
if they had something going on that they, knew in their gut wasn't right, that they would reach out to. They really think highly of them. This SRO came in, and, we always say, well, tell us what you do and, a little bit about your background, because the kids see them, but they may not know them. And we always say, you were once in high school too. And the kids, sometimes they don't realize that we were all once in high school and we all had issues. And so we try to convey that. But they ask him, what could we do for the SROs, And these kids are on limited budgets. They're from poverty in that room. We encourage them to get donations, sponsorships, but we don't want them to go out and buy, because we know they don't have it. And the SRO said, well, you know what? We just, at this point in our lives, we like thank yous. We like appreciation. Or tell us something you get, that we did was good. And they, it came down to Christmas cards. So they made the SROs Christmas cards. And so they researched how many there were in Floyd County. They got their names. And then the other group felt passionate about the dispatchers, and they were under stress sometimes, and they did such a good job, but really who expressed their appreciation to them. So they decided to do that, and they wanted to do more notes and ornaments, and so by the end of the day, they had the baggies made up with their cards, their personal notes, their names. It was start to finish, and it didn't cost a dime. It just took a little bit of time.
Now, as we were talking about what would we like to put in these Ziploc bags that are like 12 by 12, they started saying, well, we could put in a card, we could put in a bracelet, we could put in pins, stickers. We could also put in that beautiful card that's handmade, addressed to them personally. So the boxes started getting filled, and then I had a group of girls, and I said, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have some baked cookies? And then one said, oh, I have this special recipe, making some sugar cookies. And then I said, well, those little baggies and just a little ribbon to put on a fresh baked cookie sure would be nice to give in the Ziploc bag, but we have to wait until we get ready to give them so that they're fresh. And then the teacher said, hey, I've got 10 buckets I have bought off of these clubs that are selling cookie dough. And he said, I will give you 3 buckets, and if you'll make the homemade cookies, I'll make sure that they get in the Ziploc bags and they get delivered on time. So you talk about a beautiful community, and all the kids are listening and watching. And the assembly line, from the very beginning of the process of how do we get this to how it's going to look, and the coloring that went into those cards, to the inspirational words, and then the banner that they created that's going to be hung in the Board of Education, that so when the SROs get together, they will see the beautiful banner that was taken, was made and put up there just for them as thank you. And then their little bags that's in the Ziploc and all the goodies that's been placed. I just, it's...
I wanted Kim to share a story about 2 students that were really standoffish, very quiet. We work really hard to find ways that each student feels included and contributes in some way, whether it be fill a bag, draw something, color something. And I'll let Kim tell you a little bit more about these 2 young men that were there towards the end of the day that had kind of been standoffish.
Oh my goodness. The teacher had already said that there were a few students that may not want to participate, that they would pray, just sit and listen. And I gathered up because I would watch when we would do the games or the activities or maybe just a quick note writing. And I thought, I still can't get them involved. How can I do this? And Leslie's over here working and I'm over here working. And still, we're still finding them off a standoff position. And I thought, I'll walk up and say, hey, these didn't get finished over there. Could you please... Is there any way you all, if I could bring you some nice crayons and coloring pencils and some cards, could you finish these? Because I think we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said that, one of them looked at like, me? Yeah, you. Can you help me? And he's like, sure. And then the other guy's looking over going, well, you know what? If you can, I guess I can too. Those 10 minutes were up. They had already made 2 cards, and then I had a few more that wasn't completed. So they finished coloring them with the colored pencils, and they were beautiful. So I said, well, can you go and take them over there to the Ziploc bags and give them? And before I knew it, they were in the bags. And then I said, there is something else I really need that needs to be finished. And they looked at me and said, what? And I said, I've got this really big box of colored markers, and I need this big poster finished up because to me the poster's not done. And if you could just add some more color and we could have this laminated, we could put it on the wall. And they're looking like, yeah.
So if you can't tell, we like challenges and we want everybody to be included. And honestly, I feel like sometimes the high schoolers think we're a little corny when we come in. But the activities we do, they love to be praised. They still love to color. They still love to sing, and some of them, and they like to decorate, and they like to get together. And so we also focus on communicating. So they don't use their phones unless, it's a spell check or something that we assign them to use them for. But we encourage authentic communication. So they actually speak to one another, and we put them in situations where they converse. We are truly the facilitators. We get it going, and we step back and watch the magic happen. And it's so beautiful when you can see it start to finish, like with these 2 young men. And also when we go in, we expect these students, all students, to be able to contribute. So if you look at us and you say, oh, you're probably not going to get much out of them, or they're probably not going to do this or that. Oh, yeah, we are.
I want to just share because this project was just amazing to watch. And like Leslie said, we set up the activities. And we're not sure who's going to go to what area in the activities, but it all works out. We had 6 over here making the cards. We had 6 over here making posters. We had 6 over here to 5 coloring the ones that weren't finished. And then we had some making Christmas ornaments, and they had to tie the bows and use the glue. And then we had another group making a banner, and we didn't want to make an assignment. You do this, you do that. We said, where would you best fit? You need to go to a table. And before we knew it, the tables were full.
And we were just so proud because they were proud of their finished work. So at the end, there's this beautiful Christmas tree, and they get their green dot t-shirts, and they stand around it, and they are so proud of that they did it, that they contributed, that they were included. We believe in academics, A's, and all those things. We also tell the kids, you're more than a test score. We believe in high test scores and all those things like anybody else. We're teachers. We understand that. However, we believe in being good citizens first. Mm-hmm. And we believe in their needs being met first. For a child, when their needs are met and they feel safe and included and that they contribute, then they're more likely, in my opinion, to have better test scores.
I think it can be summed up heavily by saying you all help these students find their untapped potential. I think of it, Kim, when you handed them like even something simple like crayons, markers. In a mining, we're in the world of coal mining here in eastern Kentucky. You were handing them a pickaxe, and they started digging, and
Exactly.
they discovered their untapped potential.
The funny thing was this, is when the teacher at the beginning of the morning said, now I don't know how this is all going to work out. We did. And he said, but, here they are. I'll be here if you need me. And he was in and out, in and out, in and out. And at the end of the class at 2:30, when we're all taking that beautiful picture, we said, hey, we want you in it because you're the center. You're going to be there all the time, reminding them of the potential they all have. And so Mr. Short, Brad Short from Floyd Central, got right in the middle in front of the Christmas tree, and all the kids encircled, Leslie on one side, I'm on the other, and we're just having a fun time. And in the end of it all, he said, I have never seen a group of kids from the beginning to the end not come unglued. They were with it all the way. They were engaged for 6.5 hours and no disruptions, and we treated them like they were young adults. And I think that was the key, that we expect a lot, but we also understand where they're coming from, and no pressure. Do as much as you can. And they were bragged about yesterday in church. When I went to our Christmas cantata, one of the teachers from Floyd Central turned back at me and she said, I want you to know that your Green Dot program, and I said, oh, it's not mine. She said, well, the Green Dot program that you all were involved in last week was the topic of our faculty meeting, and Mr. Short shared with the whole group that he had never seen a better group of kids working in a unity, working throughout the day, and ending with a community project that would be an outreach for others to learn about Green Dot. So I'm so happy to hear the compliments, not for me, but that these kids done a wonderful service, and the love of Green Dot will be shining this Christmas to our SROs and our dispatchers.
I wanted to share with you one more funny thing, because you asked me about funny and earlier. So back in the day, Alan Jackson, I love Alan Jackson. We love country music. We love cowboy boots. We love all those. We're country. But anyway, we went to the CMA Fest, and we do things outside of Green Dot, but we're still always doing Green Dot no matter where we're at. So I said, Kim, there was this song. It was a line dance, Good Times, years ago, and they started out in Kentucky, and they did this line dance, and they tried to set a record with the longest line dance. I said, I think we might be able to do it with these kids. Well, Kim goes with it. It's just a whim. And she's already got it written up as a project, and, we're going to do it. So we had to learn it. We learned it off YouTube. We did the line dance. We had to take off, any bad words. The Mac helped us with that, because we wouldn't want to promote anything that, substance or anything negative. We taught it to them, and I'll tell you about this one high school, Betsy Lane High School. The dance, when you do it, there's a part, it crisscrosses and it turns. It's not a 360 turn, it's a 180. But the feet crisscross, and that's how it turns. It's a line dance. And so, you've got these young men in these trucker hats and these cowboy boots and these work boots. And 9 times out of 10, we have our boots on too. But we learned our feet are very important. We got to take care of our feet if we'll be on our feet all day. But anyway, so Betsy Lane High School, they had their health and wellness class. And let me tell you, I know they thought they weren't going to participate in the beginning too. We're going to opt out. Oh, no, we're not opting out. If I'm, 55 years old and I got to do this, you're going to help me, So I learned this just for you. But anyway, so these guys get up and they all participate. I mean, they're wonderful. Even the principal, the staff, but they get up there, and I could tell, oh gosh, we got them. We have these kids. They're
100%.
They're doing this line dance, and they're learning that physical education can be as simple as a line dance, and it can be fun. And before you know it, you've worked out, but you haven't realized you've worked out. So, we're doing all this, and it feeds us. We love it. We're at crisscrosses and 180s. I point to them, I said, one at a time. I said, show me that step. 1, 2, 3. And I was just joking. I mean, I was not expecting one at a time. They crisscrossed and turned, crisscrossed and turned. And they said,
You whipped them into shape.
Yeah, they said, is that right? I said, yeah. I said, that's perfect. I said,
They got new dance team members for the school that day.
Yeah, but I'm just, we said, hey, if you ever want to go line dancing or you're going to go country music, you got to know how to line dance.
Yep.
But yeah, the guys, and on the shimmy part, that they could shimmy better than any kids I've ever seen shimmy. But anyway, Betsy Lane High School, I want to throw it out there. It was a lot of fun.
We made so many posters that those kids at the end said, "Now, I really can't dance." I said, "You know what? It's okay. If you can't dance, we have another job for you." And it's just as important. Hey, you hold up the sign while we're dancing. And it was on an anti-bullying campaign for October. So when Betsy Lane and Floyd Central's playing one another, and Martin County is playing Floyd Central over at Martin County, we had practiced this on the floor that 100% attendance would be off the bleachers onto the floor. If they're just standing and holding a poster, they're a part of the anti-bullying campaign. So wear your cowboy boots, your jeans, spread the green dot messaging, and then I had at each school one student that would read an essay. So while the kids were going out on the court or on the field of a football game, there was time for us to get organized and have our spacing. And you talk about these guys, they didn't know what spacing was, but they thought they were in dance studio. And they did. They knew after we showed them what we expected, and the girls and the cheerleaders and the dancers, and we put them here and there, and all the students that wanted to get out on the field. Oh my God. And then their siblings came out. Can we go out too? Oh yeah, we had plenty of posters, so they're out there spreading an anti-bullying campaign so that all the community people knew more about Green Dot when they left the football game that night. And they said, "Wow, you all wore the green. You talked about the green. You danced the Green Dot." It was just one of the best parts of
that was in October. September, October. And we've done a kindness challenge since then. Mm-hmm. And this month we're focusing on caring and sharing and serving others.
Mm-hmm. Had a great time with the Green Dot Prevention Program. And I think the more we show the passion and the love, and that, there's a lot of negativity going out into this world of ours, that if we can just encompass these kids, so when we walk through the hallways and they say, "Hey, Green Dot Lady, what are we doing today?" we know that we're doing our job.
When we were first contemplating it, Kim, obviously first was God. God will lead us. She would tell me that God will lead us, and He absolutely did. But I thought, in terms of the money part of it, how could you go wrong investing in youth? How could you go wrong investing in youth? And boy, some people really stepped up, and they believed in us, and we used every dime on those kids. Yeah. And even the people that were part of it behind the scenes were helping us crunch the numbers and figuring out what we could do to help the students. And we find that over and over. There are good people that care, and it might not, like I said, be money, but it might just be time.
We've covered a lot of ground, and I love every minute of this.
Hey, we've got big plans before Joseph Little. Just put it on your calendar. Come April 15th, we're going to fill the Mountain Arts Center with so many students. Yes. We have already vendors lined up already saying, "When are y'all having that Green Dot Summit for our youth?"
Yeah.
And I said, April 15th, plan it, put it on your calendar. If you can be there, if you can set up, if you can present, we want to hear about it. And our kids have already been spotlighted with some new talent, and we're reaching out and we're hoping that we can get some kind of a star-based person to shock them all, the audience. But if not, it's going to be good. So that's all I can.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. If they ask me for my bracelet, one of my students said, "Miss Green Dot Lady, do you have one of those bracelets?" Because they love these bracelets. I would take it off my hand and give it to them. There's some really important resources in there. Text to Kentucky 741-741, and they know what to do. But look at the hat.
I love it.
You need this hat.
I do need one of those hats.
We need to buy some more of those hats. Yeah, we may
need trucker hats, though. The big.
Yeah.
I want to hear from both of you here at the end, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to know from each of you, give me a perspective for a student that feels invisible or alone. What would you all say to that student? And then also, what would you say to the adult that maybe isn't sure how to be that safe, trusted adult, but they want to be for students? So, both of you, give me your perspective for both of those questions.
For me, I would always tell them you're not alone. We all have feelings of emptiness and loneliness. Even now, as an adult, I do. I get it. So I would say you're not alone. You may feel alone. I think our people who work with our young people, especially our educators or people in our school buildings, feel like that maybe their role or the relationships don't matter. They do. Every person that walks in that building can make a difference relationship wise in a child's life. And I would say you matter. You matter as much as the student. The student being able to come to you, tell you things that may impact their life in a positive way, because if they're not impacted in a positive way, God forbid it's going to be in a negative way. So I believe with educators or whomever's in those buildings, in our communities, our faith-based people, your role is to develop relationships with these youth, to grow them up, to help them, support them. They're needed to understand they're not alone. It's natural in a person to want to be included. Everybody needs to feel loved and also be held accountable. So as adults, we have to hold ourselves accountable as well for realizing these kids need us. And some of us really are needed by some kids more. I mean, it's all kids.
It's all kids. They could be faced with any of the crises that we deal with when it comes to bullying, cyberbullying, and unhealthy relationships that develop into dating violence, and then the sexual assault. Let's not forget about substance and harassment, because some kids don't really know what those really mean until we have those one-on-one discussions that we've all been there. We understand. And our teachers now know that we're free. They just have to step up and say, hey, come to our classrooms. Or we have an assembly, and they're supportive, and they're just as passionate, because remember that motto, no one has to do everything, but everyone has to do something.
And that's why Green Dot, we ask the teachers or the staff members to come in with us. We're not going to hide or sugarcoat anything. We're going to be authentic and real with you and your students. And like they supported us. Mm-hmm. But you saw it when, Suicide Prevention Month in September. We believe suicide prevention is all year long. But we definitely want to focus on that in September. Well, you've been coming in talking about being the trusted someone. Why should you go to someone? Providing them with the hotlines or the text lines. We make it okay to not feel okay and be able to tell someone about it. When you don't feel okay, guess what? Somebody else probably feels the same way as you. That isolation and that feeling of loneliness is brief. If you can, find someone to help you realize that you can come out of it, and you will come out of it. And we've all felt that way at times.
And I want to say this because a lot of times we're at a lot of schools. We're involved in community as well as the high schools. I and Leslie, we make sure that we leave resources behind. Last year, one of my other goals was to put a wall hanger in, not a hidden spot in the school, but an area that kids travel, but that teachers aren't watching as closely as they would in the hallway. So, for example, I have one in a high school that's an upstairs, and I put the wall hanger, and I put lots of resources that they can just take. And I went to a school the other day, and someone that came to me and said, oh, Miss Green Dot Lady, this wall hanger is empty. So in 3 months, I hadn't been up in that area, because at the beginning of the school, I filled it. It's been restocked last Thursday. So that makes me feel like, hey, if I'm not here or if Miss Fannin's not here, we still leave our trusted materials for them so they can take them and read them and share them whomever they come across. It may not be them. It could be their friend. It could be their parent. It could be their neighbor. But we all have to do a little better by spreading green dots.
Anything that you all want our audience to know? Our youth workers, maybe a student, any last message you want to send to them?
We just thank them, for allowing us to come in and work with them, and they are respectful, and our youth, there's so much potential in them. And we have our bad moments. We're not always, everything's perfect. We have to drop back and punt a lot of times, but we do love what we do, and we're passionate about it. And because we care about these kids, so they're not alone.
We have a bright future, and if we're not there, we hope to find other people that will replace us down the road, because we will age out, and we're seasoned teachers right now.
I'm a nanny,
and she's a nanny, and I'm not, but not yet. But we want this program to be a part of our community forever.
Kim, Leslie, thank you all so much for being here and allowing me to take up a good chunk of your day. And I want to thank you for the work that you're doing in our schools in Eastern Kentucky, not just our schools, but our communities. And thank you for making sure that our students are safe, supported, and seen. They need more people like you all investing in them. And like we talked about earlier, helping them see their untapped potential that they all have. So I want to thank you for our friendship, our partnership. I look forward to events that we do in the future, all aimed at investing in our youth in Appalachia. So any teachers, youth workers, counselors, maybe a student that's seen this and this message spoke to you today, be sure to like, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, and remember, keep sharing stories. See you in the next episode.